everyone. It's a pleasure being here. As he had said, I'm from the United States, and we've been involved with the cannabis laboratory industry really since 2009. For those of you that are familiar with the United States, you probably do follow what's going on. So today I want to talk a little bit about how we're involved with the cannabis laboratory industry and some of the challenges we go through and what this ISO 17025 accreditation is all about. So just a little bit about our organization. We're a third-party private organization located in Troy, Michigan, which is right outside of Detroit. But we also have offices worldwide in Japan, Mexico, Italy, and now we have branched out into the UK. Part of our reason for being here is because of our involvement in the United States with the cannabis industry. We're interested to come here and learn what's going on here in the UK. So it's very interesting. I've learned a lot from many of you actually that are sitting here today. The need for laboratory accreditation is just so extensive. Our booth is on the side back there, and a lot of people think that we're a laboratory. I probably had more people ask us about laboratories, so I actually went around when I met laboratories today to say, can I please have your card? Because so many people think that we're testing. So obviously the need in your market is there for laboratory testing, and it's so critical. In the United States, we've learned a lot. We learned a lot about the food products being produced, the oils. I mean, we have so many different products, and just having the requirement for testing is just so important. So just to give everyone an idea, here is a map right now of what's going on in the United States. So if you're following in the US what's going on with cannabis testing laboratories, cannabis is still not federally approved. So it makes it really difficult for us in our country. It's state by state specific. So the map I have up here is the states, anything that's in green, are states that have actually legalized some form of marijuana, either through medicinal or recreational. So right now we're about 32 states that have legalized something for medical or again recreational, have laws, have rules. Some don't have much, but we're making our way. And I really think with talks at a conference I was just at in San Diego, I think that we're going to start seeing in a couple years, hopefully this will be federally approved by us. So again, as I was saying, it's still not federally approved. Medical marijuana is still considered a Schedule I substance under the Controlled Substance Act. And like other products for public consumption, there is no guidance in the United States from our FDA regarding our dosage, our potency, or safety. So we're really relying on the states to really come up with this criteria. So it's been quite a challenge for us. Some of the states require, which I'm going to talk about later, ISO 17025 accreditation as a credential for the laboratories to have. They use the private accreditation organizations to do this in order for the lab to attain some type of license to have the cannabis products and to test for it. But overall, although each state has their different programs, everyone has the same common goal. And just like the person that was speaking before, compliance and safety is just so important. These products are people are ingesting this. It's not just smoking it. The biggest thing right now in the US that I'm seeing change is the form of the oils as well, the edible products. People need to know what they're doing. So again, licenses are issued for laboratories by the specific states. However, in some states though, it's not just by the state, it's actually certain counties or even certain cities. So laboratories do have to go through some type of process, not just our accreditation, but they also have to go through background checks. State inspections, they actually have to have specific tracking systems that the states require them to have to make sure that the product is contained. They also might have to get what we offer is the 17025 accreditation. So I've been talking a lot about accreditation, and for those that don't know what it is, or you're thinking about opening a laboratory, or you're hearing this amongst peers in the industry, accreditation, what that is, it's an oversight of the laboratory. And what we're doing is we're going into the laboratories and ensuring that the laboratory has demonstrated competency to perform a certain test, or it can even be a calibration laboratory. So that's what ISO 17025 is. It's a way for laboratories to tell their customers they have a good, stable laboratory. So ISO 17025 accreditation is actually a globally recognized standard. It's not only used just in the cannabis industry. This has been around for a very long time. You'll see programs like drinking water or food or even automotive labs have to become ISO 17025 accredited, not just in the United States, actually worldwide. So in the US, we have about 7,000 laboratories that achieve this type of accreditation for various different programs. Cannabis labs, again, it's a very busy industry for us, but we're probably close to I would say at least 100 laboratories that are going through this to support their state regulation. And around the world, this standard, again, is global. In the UK, we know that there's accreditation here for various different types of programs. Again, food, water, cannabis coming up soon. And worldwide, there's probably about 20,000 laboratories that achieve this type of accreditation. So again, people may ask, why am I getting this accreditation? Again, it's a globally recognized standards. Most of the time, it's the government already knows about this standard, and they dictate or mandate that laboratories achieve this type of accreditation. So it's a way for the laboratories and regulators of laboratories to say, I know if this lab achieves this accreditation, that my products are going to be safe. The laboratory has good ethical practices. This is one of the biggest challenges we have in the cannabis industry, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about later, but laboratory testing it's not just for everyone. You need to have a good, sound level of staff that are trained, you have your chemists, you have your microbiologists. It does cost money to open a lab, but you need to run a good lab. This is your reputation, and you have to remember at the end of the day, these products are being consumed not just for recreational purpose like we have in our own state, but for children. People are using this that are sick. So it's just really important to understand, if you have a laboratory, what you're doing, the purpose of your test. So just a little bit about ISO 17025 accreditation. There's really two parts to this, and the standard has now changed. It went from a 2005 version to 2017. But really, it requires the lab to have a quality management system. It's a documented process. It talks about your structure. Do you have agreements for confidentiality? How are your contracts set up? It requires you to do your own internal audits, to have a process how to handle your complaints that you might get in. But the biggest bulk of our assessment that we do, that we spend a lot of time on, is really the technical portion. So what the technical portion does is a laboratory will apply to us for a certain list of tests, and we're looking to make sure that they have certain methods in place, that they have good equipment, technical staff. We want to see how they're reporting. So really, that's the bulk of what we're doing, and that's why the 17025 standard, again, is called a competency standard of the laboratory. Quality system is good, but this is most of our time. So just to give everyone a little bit of idea, now if you know this, here it seems like it's more the CBD, the oils, but we actually have a more extensive product line in the United States. So here, really the laboratories are getting really accredited for really two different fields. Chemistry, so they're looking for the potency levels, pesticides, heavy metals, aflatoxin, moisture content. There's more, but this is just whatever I could fit on my slide at this time. But there's also microbiological areas, E. coli, mold, and mildew, to name a few. And laboratories, every year, they're extending and expanding out their test list because the states keep change their mind a lot. And they say, well, now I need this list of pesticides. But then you go to a different state, and now they only care about this list of pesticides. So it's very challenging for us as accrediting organizations to try to figure out which states want what. So the labs do have quite a bit on their plate. But these are probably the tests that even if you're doing CBD testing, these are probably still similar to things that you're going to want to be checking for. So laboratories that are interested in getting accredited, there is a process for this. They have to apply, they have to tell us what they want to be accredited for, and that means we need to know what tests you can perform. Sometimes it can start out to be one test, sometimes it can be 15 tests. It just depends on what you're ready to do. We do, once that's decided upon, we go on site, we do an evaluation, we check to make sure the laboratory meets the requirements of the ISO 17025 standard. Laboratories then will receive, if any, nonconformities, and if they do, they have time to fix those, which is about 60 days. Once they go through this process, they then go through our final review committee, their whole material, and that committee decides whether to grant the accreditation to the lab or possibly deny, and then we go back to the lab for more information. And then they get a certificate of accreditation saying, I'm accredited to 17025 for all of these lists of tests. So by having that accreditation, the laboratory's customer can then say, okay, I can now use you to perform this particular test. And people in the production area really need to understand there's a difference between non-accredited labs, accredited labs. Make sure that whoever you're using, 17025 accreditation gives you that assurance, or you're probably mandated to use a 17025 accredited lab. So also make sure on their certificate they receive from their accreditation organization, you can see the tests you hired them for, make sure they're on there, because that's going to be really important. Once we do the actual accreditation audit, we also do continuous visits every 12 months. We're there and checking up on the laboratories. So some of the common findings we have with the laboratories in the cannabis industry, as most of you know, if you're a laboratory sitting in the audience, or if you've been part of other speeches in the past, there are no standardized test methods. So that makes it really, really difficult. Laboratories are required to develop their own in-house or internal methods. So laboratories have a hard time doing that because they don't know how much data they need to do, how many runs they need to have. So that's probably one of the top findings we have during our assessments, is that people lack that information for us. It doesn't mean they can't get accredited, they just need more time and more practice validating their internal methods. They might lack technical staff or experience with training, or just lack of records and documentation. And having nonconformities on our type of assessment, there's actually nothing wrong with that. It should be valuable to you. It helps you it just makes you a better lab. So just a little bit of our experience and challenges, just from the lab's perspective. Again, it's not federally legal. So labs, if you hear this on the news, they can still, at this point in time, be prosecuted for having cannabis in their facility. They are approved by the state, or they could have a federal license to have certain drugs there, so they might be okay, but that still is going on. They also cannot get federal support like banking. So that's something that we deal with in the US, where there's a lot of investors involved, to help them somehow provide them the money to fund their equipment. No standardized test method, so they have to do a little bit more work than the typical labs that have methods out there available. And then the weirdest thing is that we've been attuned to is that some states actually require the laboratories to get accreditation before they can have a license, but they can't, without a license, they can't have the cannabis in their lab. So they have to show us how they can perform tests, either using the cannabis product. So it's a little backwards. A lot of them are actually having to go out and buy hemp or spiked products to be able to demonstrate to us they can actually perform their test. Some of the things we deal with as well is new labs. They don't really have the experience, so it is a little bit of a challenge for us. Doesn't mean they can't get accredited, but they just have to really understand, again, the importance of what they're doing. And then a lot of them do have investors. They need accredited like yesterday because they want to see their company grow. It's something that takes time, and it's something that we deal with from an accreditation perspective. Having labs, again, try to rush through the process when they really need to be doing what the standard tells them to do. So with us as an accrediting body, again, it's keeping up with the state's requirements, what's required, what's their timelines, what's their licensing requirements. We're trying to help and accommodate all the labs in all the different states. Adjustments, every lab might be validating their own method, and they can all be doing it a different way. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. Ones might not be wrong. So it's something that all of our assessment, our technical people have to adjust to. And then also, again, the high demand to quickly get these laboratories accredited because they want their license. It's a very competitive market. So overall, I mean, this is a very, very exciting industry. I came here today, and I'm probably leaving tomorrow, so it was a very short trip. And I'm really excited. I mean, this industry in the U.S. has grown so much, and just meeting so many people here today, I can't believe it. Even the new labs that are coming up. I mean, all of you that are interested in the laboratory testing or even in the processing fields. I mean, you have so much opportunity here. You know, in the U.S., so we're starting to really develop standardized methods. So we are making some way. So it is getting a lot better. It's just slow, and it takes time. We also are states that are mandating accreditation. They're starting to mirror each other's requirements, so it's making it a little bit easier for us. But I recommend, if you're a laboratory and you're looking to get into this testing industry, I recommend accreditation. Even if you don't have this mandate on you right now, it's going to get you in line. It's going to prepare you for an inspection, whatever comes out of this requirement for you. And again, this standard is used globally. So I can see it probably carrying over in the UK as well, with not additional requirements from your government. But it's something that everyone can do it. You just have to put your mind to it. You got to figure out what you need to do as far as what test methods, and you'll be prepared. So anyway, that's all I have. I don't know if I went over or not with questions or.
You've still got plenty of time, but...
Oh, good. You're worried about me going over.
Tracy, thank you. 2 questions. One, I'm sure you probably can't answer. And the second one is about the ethics. You said you talk a bit more about the ethics in your audit. You didn't cover it, I don't think, so if you can talk about that, that'd be great. And the other question is, do you know why in the UK it's not mandated to have this accreditation yet? I think you made it sound like it was perhaps voluntary. Thank you. Did you get those 2 questions?
So one was about, I just might make sure, I can't hear the music's kind of loud on that side, so I have a hard time. So one was about ethics.
Yeah. Can you fill us in on the ethics? You said you'd talk about that.
So what laboratory accreditation does, it does, if a laboratory has a set up quality management system, which gets their laboratory involved with running to certain processes and certain test procedures that fall under the requirements of 17025, I can't say 100% that the lab is going to be completely ethical. If that's what you were asking, but it does help them get to that position to where you can catch things, you can catch data. You're paying attention more to what's happening in your operation by people embracing the 17025 standard within their laboratory. But in the UK, your other question was about why it's not regulated or mandated here in the UK.
Yeah, why is it not mandated here?
That I don't know yet. I would imagine it will be. There's probably, I know that there are some laboratories that are going through accreditation for this because they're trying to serve the industry. Just like in the US though, I'm sure it's going to catch up, you know.
Any further questions for Tracy? Well, I think you must have done a good job there then, Tracy, because there are no further questions. Could you put your hands together for Tracy? Thank you very much.